Hello, candle lovers! Thanks for tuning in to me today. My name is Greg, and this is all about candles. Happy Sunday, everyone. Every Sunday, I like to do the weekly wax wrap-up, where I just go through all of the candles that I finished burning this week, how they smelled, how they performed, all that good stuff. Let's just get right into it. I finished up this Moonlit Goddess from Bath & Body Works, and this came out in the first new wave of fall candles that we got from Bath & Body Works a couple of weeks ago. In the neutrals line, really beautiful shade of green on this candle. Something about the labels on these new neutrals candles kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Even though it's a pretty simplistic label, something about it just seems really busy. I feel like those vertical lines are maybe just a little bit too bold, and so it looks like they're like running through the text. And it actually makes the smaller text on the bottom kind of hard to read, but this is very nitpicky of me. Overall, I enjoyed this candle. The scent notes on it are French lavender, pear blossom, and golden vanilla, and this is a fairly typical Bath & Body Works fruity floral concoction. I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see this come out in body care. I know that it came out in laundry care in the States, and it came out in a wallflower like plug refill thingamajig. But I'm kind of surprised that this fragrance wasn't a big single fragrance launch. You know what I mean? With like a full range of body care, and that it wasn't packaged to sort of be very like feminine and ethereal. I think maybe something might have happened in the development of this fragrance, and they were like, all right, we're just gonna send it to home fragrance. Maybe something about it didn't transfer well into like a body care situation. I'm not too sure. It just seems like this candle is a little out of place in the neutrals line. Even though it's lovely, you'd think maybe it would just be called pear blossom and golden vanilla in the neutrals packaging. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, I really do like this fragrance. It's sort of mid to top. Something about the fruity floral combo in this reminds me a bit of Gingham Gorgeous from Bath & Body Works. The fragrance notes and the components are not the same, but something about that the fruity floral balance of it really reminds me of Gingham Gorgeous. And on top you have like a bright, sort of stone fruity, soft floral note. And the middle of the fragrance, I think, is mostly the lavender note. And it's not like it's not a super like sharp or medicinal or soapy lavender note. It does say French lavender on the fragrance notes, but it strikes me a little bit more as like a soft English lavender. And then in the base, there is a really, really lovely vanilla note. It's not like a really fluffy, gourmandy vanilla note. It's a sort of smooth, bright, natural, like vanilla bean type note. And I think it all goes really well together. I think it's nicely balanced. I think it's a lovely fragrance. I wish this candle had been a little bit stronger. It performed all right. I burned it all the way down actually until it extinguished itself there. And I let that last burn go off way too long. Like I said, I let it sort of extinguish itself, which is why the wax looks kind of discolored there. But as you can see, there's no soot stains or anything like that around the jar. It was a really nice clean burn from top to bottom. But the strength and throw left a little bit to be desired. I'd say that in my more open space, it was around a 5 or a 5.5. So there was sort of an acceptable like base level presence to it. It spent most of its time in my bedroom, where I'd say it got up to a 6. Maybe some of the bigger burns got up to a 6.5. I feel like that's pretty generous. I'd say this candle hovered around the 5.5 to the 6 mark. I wish it had been a little bit stronger, because when it was burning, you know, without sort of like hovering over it and really investigating, it kind of felt like some of the nuances of the fragrance were lost just because it wasn't quite strong enough. But, you know, it was a lovely fragrance, and I think it makes for a good bedroom fragrance. So I got okay strength and throw out of it in the bedroom. I would consider repurchasing this again, and I'll recommend this candle as well. You know, like I said, no issues with like the burn quality or anything. Just don't expect it it to blow the roof off your house, you know what I mean? I also finished up Sundrenched Linen from Bath and Body Works. I actually really like Sundrenched Linen, folks. I'd say that it's probably my favorite. No, that's going too far. It's not my favorite laundry fragrance from Bath and Body Works, but it's definitely up there. What I like about this fragrance is that it really does smell quite sunny. You know, for me, it really sort of conjures up like clothes on a clothesline, you know, getting wrapped in that sunlight and a little bit of like floral soapiness. I like Sun-drenched Linen. This is from the old White Barn core line, and I actually have one of the newer versions of this candle. So I didn't do a full-length review this week of Sundrenched Linen because I'm gonna wait and review the one that's currently on the floor right now, and I'm hoping that it does burn better than this one did. The scent notes on here are clean, cool linen, crisp, tart apple, and soft musk. And this is quite a musky fragrance, and it's quite soapy as well. And I think that there is a unlisted lavender scent note in here, and it would be more like a French lavender scent note, something a little bit like soapy. And the apple gives it a little bit of sweetness, and I wonder if that might be sort of where that kind of sunlit vibe comes from, that apple note. And it's also quite musky as well in the base of the scent. It smells warm and sunny and clean and fresh. I've actually always really liked Sundrenched Linen. I definitely like it more than Laundry Day. Yeah, however, just like most of the candles in the old White Barn core line, I had real performance issues with this one. I'd say the first half of it performed pretty well and was getting up to like maybe a 7 for strength and throw, probably a 6.5 in a more open area, and maybe a 7 in the bedroom. But then the entire last half of the candle was just dud ounce city, itty bitty wicks, teeny tiny flames. It started to annoy me so much that I just put the rest of this in the candle crock in my bedroom. It was a really nice hot summer day, and I was cleaning a bunch of stuff around my bedroom, doing laundry and stuff like that. And so I finished this off by putting it in the candle crock in there. And by putting this much wax in the candle crock in the bedroom space, I'd say it got up to like a 7.5 or an 8. It was really quite strong. I can't, this candle I don't think is on the floor anymore. I think they semi-annual sailed all of these old White Barn candles away. So I'm gonna hold off on recommending this fragrance until I burn the new White Barn version of this, and then I'll report back to you and probably do a full-length review on that one. I also finished up a Fiji White Sands from Bath and Body Works. And this is from the Neutrals line, but this isn't the version that came out this summer. This one was poured in 2023. I really like Fiji White Sands. I go through a couple of these every spring and summer. The scent notes on it are fresh cut sugarcane, white nectarine, and sandalwood. And this fragrance has always really intrigued me. It's quite stone fruity, and there's a little bit of like a creamy woodsiness in there. I'd say it sort of sits in a medium range, and it is very, very beachy. And for a stone fruit fragrance, I would say it's on like the sweeter side of a stone fruit fragrance, like a nectarine. I really have always liked this candle. Something that intrigues me about this fragrance is that it really smells like a tropical coconut fragrance. If you're kind of just giving it a quick sniff, I think a lot of people would think that this is just a pretty run-of-the-mill, like tropical coconut candle. But when you really dig into the fragrance, you realize that there isn't a coconut note in there, but the sum of these individual fragrance notes kind of give off that beachy tropical coconut vibe. I think it's a really interesting one. It's been around forever. I don't think it's a candle that many people are super interested in anymore, but I always like it, and I feel like it always performs quite well. I burned this all the way down until I could see the wick nickels. There was really nothing left in there. The wax did get a little bit discolored at the end, but I never really caught it sooting or making a big mess or anything. I'd say the strength and throw on this was like a 6.5, maybe even a 7 in my more open space. It's not really one of those fragrances that comes at you super like hard and strong, but it definitely has a nice sort of soft and sweet presence to it. And yeah, I kept it in my more open space the whole time I was burning it, and I thought that the strength and throw was more than acceptable. I also finished up a coconut caramel apple from Goose Creek. I believe that this was a brand new fragrance this year. I thought that the packaging on this was okay. They released this collection. There was a whole bunch of like summery gourmands in this collection. I just felt like trying something new, wanting to check out one of the newer fragrances that Goose Creek was offering. Goose Creek does great gourmands, and so I do tend to order more gourmand candles from Goose Creek than I do from other companies. I just find that Goose Creek does great gourmands. The scent notes on this are sweet apple, toasted coconut, and gooey caramel. And my main note on this fragrance is that for me, the coconut is really, really lost. Like, on cold, you can smell the coconut a little bit, but when I was burning this candle, it really just smelled like a very basic run-of-the-mill caramel apple candle. And it reminded me a little bit of one of their Halloween candles as well. And I'm pretty sure that it's called like caramel apple or chocolate apple or something like that. It reminded me quite a bit of that just because the coconut note here is kind of lost. However, to just critique it as a caramel and apple candle, I thought it was fairly pleasant. It is definitely a little bit sweeter, and the caramel note is a little bit sweeter, stickier, and ooey and gooier than I would like it to be, but I actually think the apple note in this is quite nice, and it's quite a bassy fragrance. It's not super like sugary and saccharine and top heavy. The sweetness is a very, very like deep sweetness. A very, very bassy caramel fragrance with some apple in the middle and just a teeny sprinkling of coconut on top. Like I said, when I was burning this candle, the coconut was barely detectable. I did burn this all the way down until the whole candle had liquefied. My very last burn on it, it started to smell a little bit off. And so I just called it a day at this point. I didn't even bother putting the rest of this wax in my candle crock or under a heat lamp because I just wasn't that invested in it. But the strength and throw was really good. I'd say this was a very solid 7 or a 7.5 in my more open space. I never put this candle in my bedroom. This is not a bedroom fragrance for me. But in my more open space, it had more than enough strength and throw. Probably, like I said, around a 7 or a 7.5. No complaints on that. This isn't going to be a repurchase for me though, and I don't think it's going to be a recommendation either. I think that the candle that I was just talking about from their Halloween collection, I'll put the picture up of it again. I think that one's a little bit more nicely done. And also, I don't think they really delivered on the promise of there being much coconut in this fragrance. It really didn't come across to me as a summery fragrance at all, more like an October fragrance. Also finished up Paradise Garden from Goose Creek. I loved this candle, you guys, but I definitely don't think that it's for everyone. This was a beautiful, beautiful tropical collection that they put out. I mean, this wraparound label really looks like a Paradise Garden. This candle really, really had some personality to it. The scent notes on it are island orchid petals, wild gardenia, and pink sands. And whoo, girl, this is so floral. This is almost like a radically like floral fragrance. it's not really a perfume. It's not perfumey to me because there's nothing in here that is like musky or amber or anything that would sort of make this a floral perfume. This is predominantly a very, very, very strong white floral fragrance. However, even though it is so bright and so strong, it's not like a super like sharp, like cutting white gardenia note, kind of like the white gardenia from Bath and Body Works. There is something, I don't know what they mean by a pink sands note. We've got orchid petals and wild gardenia. I almost wonder if there's not a little bit of some neroli in here as well. And a touch of greenery, actually a fair bit of greenery, a fair bit of like very, very lush, dewy, like a wet, lush, dewy, like green notes, almost a little bit marshy. And that's in the base. And then this is just such a strong, like, white floral presence. Like, oh my gosh. You know who loved this candle is Steve. Steve came over one day when I had this candle burning, and as soon as he walked into my living room, he was like, "Whoo, which one is this? I love it." And Steve is the type of person who really loves fresh cut lilacs from Bath and Body Works, white gardenia from Bath and Body Works, and so this candle is very much in that genre of floral, like very, very strong and unmistakable. Wow. I mean, this candle was not shy. In my more open space, this candle was like an 8 or an 8.5 easily. I mean, holy smokes, this was just like knocking the roof off of my house, and I had to be in a certain mood to burn this candle, and it had to be a nice hot day because I had to have like my windows open. You know what I mean? This really, I could picture this being the type of candle that might give some people a headache, you know? However, I was really, really into it. This is going to be a repurchase for me and a recommendation for you, as long as all of the stuff that I've said about it so far sounds like something you might like. Just one of those really, really, really bright, personality forward floral candles. It burned pretty nicely. To be honest, I feel like I've had some burn issues with almost all of the candles that came out of this collection, which is such a shame because it was a great selection of fragrances in this collection. But this one I got down to about this point here, and then it was just dudding out so badly that I called it a day. You know, there's less than an inch left on here, and I definitely felt like I had had my fill of it. To be honest with you, I would be scared to put the rest of this wax into a candle crock or under my heat lamp because I feel like it might start to make my eyes water. However, I will be repurchasing this because when I was burning it on really nice warm days with the windows open, I mean, this was more than room filling. This was pretty much the only candle that I could have burning unless I was specifically matching it with fragrances that would complement it in other areas of my house, because I could smell this candle everywhere I went when it was burning. Holy smokes, this was strong. Definitely a repurchase for me, maybe a recommendation for you. If you're into candles like fresh cut lilacs and white gardenia and are okay with something even stronger and greener than those fragrances, that might be for you. I also finished up a Whitewater Springs from Goose Creek. This is such beautiful packaging, you guys. Oh my goodness. And this candle just looked stunning when it was burning as well. I'm pretty sure Kent from the Candle Channel must have designed this collection because they just looked spectacular. And I feel like Kent will often take into account the way that a candle's packaging is gonna look when it's burning. I mean, this just looked like I had a wavy beach sitting on my coffee table. You know, it looked beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. The scent notes on Whitewater Springs are rushing waters, salted grapefruit, and crisp eucalyptus. And This is a fairly typical and kind of cologne-ish fragrance. It's quite bright. I think there's a fair amount of bergamot in here as well. I think that the rushing waters note is kind of a stand-in for bergamot. There is definitely something a little bit citrusy. They list salted grapefruit on here, but I really get more of a bergamot vibe than a grapefruit vibe. Definitely some eucalyptus. It's not like super minty or medicinal. It's a bit more of like a green smelling, like a leafy sort of smelling eucalyptus note. It does smell really watery, a little bit ozonic, a little bit salty. I really like this. It's pretty basic, I'm not gonna lie. This is a pretty basic fragrance. It is quite cologne-y. Maybe it reminds me just a touch of Ocean from Bath and Body Works. But I really liked it, and I thought that it performed quite well too. I burned it all the way down until I could see the wick nickels. There's practically nothing left on this one. In my more open space, it was a very solid 6 or a 6.5 for strength and throw. In the bedroom, it was like a 6.5 or a 7. I think I'd consider repurchasing this one. I'm not sure if I want to recommend it just because candles like this are, you know, kind of a dime a dozen. I don't think that anybody would sort of smell or burn this candle and be blown away by its originality by any means. It's a pretty classic oceanic kind of men's cologne fragrance, but I like fragrances like that, and I really enjoyed burning this, and it looked beautiful as well. This must have been a design from Kent. I mean, it looks great, which by the way, like, I think that we know that Kent has stopped working at Goose Creek, but once he left Goose Creek, I believe that he said that there were still quite a few more collections to come that he had a role in designing. And if you're looking at the new fall releases from Goose Creek and looking at the packaging and the labels on there, it's quite obvious that now, unfortunately, Kent's time at Goose Creek is over. Without being too shady, because I do love Goose Creek, but it definitely looks like the designs that he had sort of banked for that company are now released and they're finished, and we're going back to the original sort of Goose Creek aesthetic, which is unfortunate. I wish he could have just stayed working with them forever. Anyways, that's all I've got for us in terms of candles today. Only 6 candles this week, guys. I was barely home. I was out of town for work for 2 days, and then I was crashing at the boyfriend's place for a couple of nights, and I did bring some candles on the road with me, but I didn't have any time to really record videos or anything this week, and I do apologize for that. I did manage to get a full-length review out for Moonlit Goddess when I was home on Wednesday, so if you're interested in that, I will link to it below. And also, one of the first candles that I ever reviewed on my channel is Fiji White Sands. I am like super embarrassed of the videos that I posted. The first like 3 or 4 months that I was doing this channel, you know, trying to figure out how to speak and like do proper reviews on camera and whatnot. And so even though my review of Fiji White Sands was very much in the beginning era of all Aboot candles, and I'm a little embarrassed by those videos, I'll link to that below as well in case you want to check it out. Let's do a little bit of candle news. I made a couple notes of things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. At Bath and Body Works, everyone seems to be getting different releases, like in the actual brick and mortar stores right now. Like some places are getting certain collections before other places are. But it seems like now everything is up online for everybody. So that's good. It seems like everything's available on the online store. Today is probably going to be the last day of the $12.95 and $13.95 candle sale. So if you haven't placed an order yet, let's get around to that. We've got some new online exclusives on the American store, things like pumpkin donut, a lot of gourmands that I'm really not super interested in, so I'm gonna be skipping that. I mean, this month I've probably bought about 25 fall candles from Bath and Body Works, so I think I'm good for a while. I skipped the sale this weekend. Lots of new stuff up on the Goose Creek website. We've got 3 new fall collections, and they've got some really great sales happening right now on their spring and summer candles. if you like summer gourmand fragrances, we've got some killer price points out there right now for like their Boardwalk Cone collection and that other sort of bright, fun, summery gourmand collection that had sugar cookie dough and stuff like that in it. Those are all at really good price points. I was actually much more excited by Goose Creek's semi-annual candle sale this year than I was by Bath & Body Works. I thought they did a really great job. They put out so many new summery candles just for that sale, and a lot of them were really quite good. So I'd recommend checking out Goose Creek. I'm really eager to see what Goose Creek ends up doing for Halloween. For the last couple of years, they've been doing like a Halloween sort of collaboration, as well as releasing all of their regular Halloween candles. Last year it was Beetlejuice. The year before that it was Hocus Pocus. So I'm really anxious to find out what Goose Creek does for a collaboration this Halloween, if they do one. Kringle Candle, all of the Halloween stuff is launching August 1st. I don't buy from Kringle anymore, but Halloween is a really, really big deal for them, and a lot of people are big fans of their Halloween candles, so you're going to be able to start purchasing those at midnight on August 1st, or, you know, at like 12:01 a.m. on August 1st. They have 6 new fall fragrances out right now, and I haven't gotten around to watching her yet, but Sarita, I think, purchased 6 of the new fall candles from Kringle. Sarita over at Coffee and Candles, and I just saw today that she did a big old video about the Kringle fall releases. So if you're interested on getting some impression sniffs on those fall candles, I really recommend following Sarita from Coffee and Candles. She is fantastic. Homeworx has lots of fall up on the website now. My favorite fall candle from Homeworx is Harvest Leaves. I absolutely love this candle, and I already have a Harvest Leaves in my collection. I think I have 2 Harvest Leaves in my collection, and I have a patchouli and teakwood from Homeworx in my collection for fall. So I think I'm already good when it comes to Homeworx candles to burn this fall. Oh, and we need to talk about And Just Like That, Sex and the City. Don't worry, you guys, we only have like probably 2 or 3 episodes left, so this journey is almost over. I've been recapping this show at the end of my weekly wax wrap-ups for the last couple of months, and I think I'm ready for it to end now. I still enjoy talking about it, and I still hate watching this show, so let's just get right into it. Carrie and Aiden I guess Aiden is moving into Carrie's place now temporarily because his sons don't live with him anymore. His one son that's like a troubled alcoholic just told him that he wants to go and live with mom. So Aiden is an empty nester, and he's gonna move in with Carrie sort of temporarily into her New York house. And Carrie's showing him around, and she's like, you can have this closet. And she like takes him to a closet in a spare bedroom and is like, you can have this one. And Aiden's like, this is the cat's room. And Carrie's like, you guys are gonna get along so well. I find it really hard to believe that Carrie has any empty closets in her house. Okay? Like, we see in Carrie's bedroom, she still has a similar setup as she had in her apartment, where it's like one of those sort of closets that you walk through it to like get to the ensuite washroom, and that closet is full, but that doesn't look like a lot of closet space. I mean, Carrie, I can only imagine how many clothes Carrie must have. I just don't believe for one single second that Carrie has an entire spare closet free in her house. There's absolutely no way. We've got LGBT. I can never remember what her name is. Everyone calls her by her initials, so I just call her LGBT. And she's getting super horned up by her coworker, Marion, who looks like this. I mean, he is gorgeous. And so they're like editing this film together. He is like her video editor, and they're making a documentary about Black women in history, and they're on their lunch break. And so LGBT is eating her sandwich, and Marion is eating a papaya. And I mean, what is happening here? They say they both ordered lunch from the same spot, and LGBT orders a kale salad. And for lunch, Marianne just orders one big papaya and slices it in half and is taking a spoon to sort of scoop it out and goes Oh, I love papaya. You know what's hard about papaya? It's hard to find one that's really nice and juicy and ripe. And LGBT, like, who orders a papaya for lunch? It's like slurping it off of his spoon. LGBT is looking at him like, watching him eat this papaya. So she's all horned up and she takes it home to her husband. They wake up one morning and she's looking at him and she's thinking about Marion, but she's looking at her husband. So she crawls up on top of him and he's like, whoa, honey, is it my birthday? And she's like, I just want you so bad. And he's like, I've kind of got to pee. And so that doesn't happen. They've been married forever. So LGBT goes on a walk with Charlotte and confesses to her. She's like, it's official. I have a little bit of a work crush on Marion. We're working and we're flirting. We're flirking. Charlotte's like, that's so funny. You're flirking. Nothing wrong with a little harmless flirking. So stupid. Oh my God. Meanwhile, Miranda's boring English girlfriend comes over to visit Miranda and brings a big bottle of gin with her. And I kind of forgot about this, but in like season 1 or 2, we established that Miranda had a drinking problem. She was like drinking way too much to cope with the stress of like, you know, being bisexual now and everything. And so she was drinking too much and she quit drinking. But her girlfriend from England really loves a cocktail and brings a bottle of gin over to Miranda's house. And Miranda's like, I don't really drink, but you can keep that here for when you're visiting. And Miranda's girlfriend is like, oh, thank you so much. Is it happy hour? Blah, 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 blah. And they're so boring. But then, so Miranda's girlfriend goes home and Miranda is stressed out working on her computer. And she's thinking, you know, she wants something. She goes in and she grabs a cookie and she's like, this isn't really hitting the spot. So then she goes in and she grabs the big bottle of gin. And she's like, and the music in the background, you know, when a character is doing something dumb, which Miranda pretty much always is in this series. So the music in the background is like dun 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 boom ba-dum ba-dum ba-dum. And Miranda's like pouring herself a glass, just pours some gin in a glass. She smells it. She almost takes a sip and then she's like, no, psh, pours it out. And she takes the bottle out into the hallway of her building and throws the bottle down, the whole bottle of gin, throws it down the garbage chute. And you hear it go, boom, 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 smash down at the bottom of the garbage chute. I'm like, you know what this reminded me of? They're rehashing this Miranda storyline here because in the original series, Miranda had a little bit of an eating problem and she was eating too much and she was putting on weight and she would like bake herself an entire like Betty Crocker sheet cake and like sit there and eat the whole thing. And when she was like trying to like curb her sweet tooth and stop eating as much, she had this whole cake on her counter. And so they'd be playing the same dumb music, dun, 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 bum, 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 while Miranda was like trying not to eat the cake. And eventually she just wrapped the cake up in like tinfoil and put it in her garbage and poured soap on it so that she wouldn't be tempted to eat it anymore. So they're just completely rehashing a storyline that happened in the original. They're not just a storyline, they're rehashing a scene, an entire scene of Miranda's, you know, just with a bottle of gin instead of a cake. And it made sense in the original series. And it was like a big part of her character arc, you know, her sweet tooth and her putting on weight. And in this episode, it just really felt like they were like rehashing a character beat from the old series because they don't know what to do with Miranda in this new series. I mean, it's just so strange. Seema is my favorite new, terrible, least favorite character. She's the man-hating chain smoker, but she has finally found a man that she doesn't hate, and it's Carrie's gardener. I forget what his name is. What is his name? Adam. His name's Adam, and in this episode, we find out that his name is Adam Karma, and he's one of these real, like, salt-of-the-earth type of dudes. super annoying, thinks he's so clever, thinks he's so sharp, and these two just have absolutely no chemistry together on screen whatsoever. This relationship is so unbelievable. We have to watch such an awkward and weird sex scene between the two of them, and then at the end of it, Adam's like sniffing Seema's armpit and starts like licking Seema's armpit, and I'm just like, my eyes. Like, the show is just so awkward and hard to watch sometimes. These two just have absolutely no chemistry on screen. And anyway, so then later on they get to talking, and Seema and Adam is like, when I was licking your armpit earlier, I could really taste those aluminum nitrates from your deodorant. And Seema's like, yeah, I wear deodorant. What about it? And Adam, his last name's Karma, Adam Karma is like, I don't use deodorant. I just use a rock crystal, and it's all natural, and it eliminates odor. And Seema's like, I didn't know that you were one of these like hippy dippy mofos. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work out anymore. I didn't know that you didn't use deodorant. And I also didn't know that your last name was Karma. So Seema's really questioning where this relationship is gonna go, because this guy is just a little bit too hippy dippy for her. Anyways, the best part of this whole episode was when they were at the art gallery and you could hear Madonna's Like a Virgin playing in the background. That was the best part of this episode because, I mean, Madonna sort of kind of was a part of it. That's all I have for you folks today. A little bit of a shorter weekly wax wrap up this week, but they've been getting really, really long lately. This one's a bit more concise. Didn't have as many candles to go through. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram at allaboutcandles and email your burning questions to allaboutcandles@gmail.com. If you could hit me up with a like, a comment, subscribe to my channel, share this video with someone that might be interested in it, I would really appreciate that. And until next time, my dear, gorgeous, and beautiful candle-loving friends, let's burn some candles and bitch about it. Thanks, you guys. Bye now.